Stuttgart continue to chase down Bayern in the table. Girona leapfrog Barca. And of course, we end with predictions. Full-time roundup starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. This is another edition of the Full-Time Roundup podcast. It is me, Daniel Brackett, your co-host here, and right across from me, virtually is Harrison Clark. He does the betting show with me every week, and he pops on at Full-Time Roundup pretty occasionally here. So Harrison, thanks for being here, and I can't wait to talk some footy with you.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here. Another solid week of footy as we get closer to the end of the season. It's gonna be enjoyable last couple games, I think.
No, I think so as well. And just for some housekeeping, Matt is at the Love and Life Festival. So he is loving life, listening to some Beach Boys right now. Actually, weather ended up being really nice today in Charlotte after a really rainy day yesterday. So glad he's enjoying that. And, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you got your UNC hat on. I got the nice Canes hat on because the Canes will be playing against the Rangers. Matt's team is the Rangers, actually, in just a couple hours here. And so, Harrison, do you think we'll be able to open up game one with a win, even though it's in New York?
It's going to be a tight one, but me thinking I am an absolute sharp, I like that the Canes are a favorite on the road. That makes me feel pretty good. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun series. I think it probably will go to 7 if I had to guess, but it's going to be tight, back and forth games. But yeah, today I like our chances.
Absolutely, and Brett Pesce being back is definitely a good thing for us. But this is not a hockey show. Unfortunately, this is a soccer show. So we'll go ahead and get started here in the Premier League, and first game when it comes to on Saturday morning was Arsenal versus Bournemouth. And Arsenal, were pretty tight with Bournemouth. It felt like obviously the score was 3-0 at the end, but they got a nice penalty. You can argue all day if that's a flop or not. I would lean to more of simulation than the latter. But they get a lifeline there, and then Rice as well as Trossard kind of see this game out, and a nice 3-0 win to put them at the top of the table.
Yeah, I mean, not much you can say about Arsenal, to be honest, this season. It's been a complete team effort. They've had their games where they haven't been superb, maybe, but I think that they've, for the most part, have been one of the most consistent teams. And it's they're fun to watch. And I can't say enough about Declan Rice. That guy's been absolutely unbelievable this season. A guy that I was praying that Chelsea would get, and he's just shown his talent all throughout this year, and it's been a massive part of what Arsenal have built there. So, yeah, full credit to them. It was tight for the most part, and then they were able to open it up late in the second half. But a win that we kind of expected, I think, from Arsenal.
Yeah, Bournemouth are hot though, and so I was thinking they'd give them a little bit more of a fight, maybe. But looking at the score, it didn't look like much of a fight. But I would say to their credit, they did kind of keep it close for most of the game. So still respect the Bournemouth there, and they are. I think they're now a point ahead of Manchester City, but Manchester City do have a game in hand. Last time you were on the show, you predicted Liverpool to hoist the trophy. Obviously, we are now eating crow, both of us. But are you still thinking it's going to be a City title winner, or do you think Arsenal still has a pretty good shot here?
I think City are going to see this thing out. I kind of wish, even though I'm a Chelsea boy and I like seeing Arsenal's downfall, part of me wishes that I could see somebody else win it. I know obviously Liverpool won it the COVID year, but since then it's been all City, and I would like to see maybe a little more, or see somebody else lift the trophy at the end of the day. But I think City's going to see this thing out. I mean, there's just too much talent there. And down the stretch, when games really, really do matter, it just seems like City have that that knowledge that they're going to get it done in the end. And they showed this week that there's no real nerves there.
No, I couldn't agree more. And to get to the city game, on our betting show, you were fairly confident in their ability to get it done. And they go and they absolutely hammer Wolves 5-1. Holland scoring 4 of the 5. Gets hooked, and he's absolutely pissed about it, which is hilarious. You love to see that kind of mentality. People were making it more of a big deal. But, when you're that good and you're that hungry for goals and to make a name for yourself, you're going to have that mentality, even if it's 5-1 at the time and you're getting hooked. But he was unstoppable once again. And if there was any debate, which it probably wasn't, but if there was any debate if Holland's going to have the golden boot this year, he really silenced all the haters yesterday.
Yeah, no, he definitely he probably put a stamp on that one. I know Cole Palmer wanted to give him a run for his money, but it's looking like it's going to be Erling's again, which, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of expected, to be honest, with just how good he is and with that team and everything they have going for them. I mean, when he is going, and it's honestly been a little bit of a he's going to win the Golden Boot, but I think that maybe this season he hasn't necessarily played up to what he was last year. I think it's been maybe a little bit of a setback for him, but at the same time, I mean, once he gets going, he's almost impossible to stop, and that goes for the City team as a whole. Once they get going, they're impossible to stop. So that's part of why I think that they'll see this thing out to the end. I do have a game with Tottenham coming up, obviously, which will be massive, and it will be at Spurs. We'll get to Spurs in a second, but it's I just think that City are just going to be too much.
Yeah, and it's definitely unfortunate. It's definitely unfortunate, and there's nothing really you can do at this point. Maybe, hopefully Spurs can play, the villain card here, but they just look like they're, especially with losing the Champions League too. I just don't see it happening. They can basically start all their guys that they want to, other than just playing injuries, which they're getting healthy at the perfect time. They have been for the last month or so. And Holland has been quiet the last, I don't know, call it month or so. And, then he has one of these monster games and he's right back into being his usual self. So I think he's going to finish the season on a high note and he's looking to break records yet again.
Yeah, he's an absolute sicko. I don't really even know what to make of him anymore. I mean, can you imagine the rumors the rumors always been Mbappe to Madrid, but Holland's also been rumored there at some point. Like, can you imagine just creating just the greatest team of all time in La Liga? They're already beating Barcelona by 14 points, but then adding like players of that kind of caliber, it just scares you a little bit.
It'd be like that Office meme of Jim or Steve Carell, like, dear God, no. like they
everybody calm down. Everybody calm down.
It's like you already have Vinicius. You got you basically just have plucked the best talent from every single league for the last, 5 years. Real Madrid's the youngest they've ever been. And then you're adding Mbappe to that, and just to think that they couldn't add Erling Haaland, or they're playing without a striker right now, and so Mbappe probably won't even answer that number 9 call. He'll probably play on the wing, maybe. I mean, maybe he might play 9. I don't know what Carlo has in plan for him, but yeah, just the thought of that makes me scared. And I always like a nice Barcelona Real Madrid rivalry, so I'd like Erling to go to Barca, but I just don't see that happening in terms of just Barca's financial picture and things like that. But to get to the next game, Liverpool, and I'm wearing my kit. I'm kitted up right now. Very pleased with the win. Actually, I was pretty pleased with, minute 1 to 70, I'd say. After the 70th minute, it got a little interesting as, Liverpool absolutely drubbed them in the first half. We're up 4-0 by the 65th minute. Now, to be fair, Spurs did answer with 2 goals late to make things a little bit nervy. But at the end of the day, Liverpool have looked terrible for the last month or so, and this was kind of the first game I've seen them in a while where they had, the desire to win and just were the best team by a country mile.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with Salah breaking through. I mean, when your best player is not scoring the goals when you need them, it's going to be hard. I mean, and that's kind of what we've seen recently. But him getting that early goal was certainly helped today's cause, at least. You called it up beforehand. You said Salah's going to score today, and right on cue, he scores like 2 minutes later. Um, but overall, I feel like more of my main takeaway, even though Liverpool, I guess mathematically, are still in contention for the title. We all know that's not going to happen, but I think my main takeaway is that that's now 4 in a row lost by Tottenham, and we knew under Ange that there would be streaks, both winning and losing wise. I think we're starting to see maybe could be fatigue, could be a bunch of things, but that's now 4 in a row for Spurs losing, and kind of comes at a bad part of the season as they're trying to secure a Europa League spot, and all of a sudden there's teams like one we'll mention a little bit trying to hunt them down, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting finish for Spurs here. They got a couple big games now to finish the year to try to really secure that sixth spot. Um, I don't know. It's a little worrisome, I think, if you're a Spurs fan.
No, I couldn't agree more. And they started off so hot. Ange Ball looked to be just in full effect, and they kind of ran out of gas. A lot of Tottenham supporters were believing in the fourth spot a couple weeks ago, and then they had this gauntlet stretch, and the gauntlet stretch has gone probably as bad as you could possibly imagine. So they're on 60 points. Newcastle are only 4 points behind them. They're now 7 points from Aston Villa with the game. They do have a game in hand. But their next couple fixtures, they do have Burnley and Sheffield, but between them, City, which is, that's going to be a tough game. So maybe they can finish the season on a high note with Burnley and Sheffield. And I think they'll lock up that fifth spot. I'm not really that worried about them falling back into sixth place here. I think sixth place is for sure up to grabs, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I just think that they did believe for a while that they could leapfrog Aston Villa, and then after probably the second defeat of this 4 in a row, the belief has kind of left them, and you could show that they just didn't have the desire. I also think you could be a little bit critical on how Ange just set up his teams, who he's starting. Madison starts on the bench. Richarlison starts on the bench yet again. Richarlison, great history of scoring against Liverpool when he was an Everton player. James Madison's the most creative player on the pitch. And, if you're playing and trying to beat Virgil van Dijk in that back line, you need some creativity there to help Son out. And he kind of went with more of a pragmatic approach with Bentancur, Papasar, and Bissouma, a very defensive midfield. And not only did they concede 4 goals, but they didn't offer a great threat going forward for majority of the match until Richarlison and Madison got subbed on. So Ange's gonna have to figure out who his players are, and I think the selections have been a little weird as of late, but still, as a Tottenham fan, I think you should still be happy with how the season's gone and still have optimism for the future.
Yeah, that's fair. Certainly, I think the Madison decisions have been interesting, considering the beginning of the year, he looked like an absolute world beater. I mean, that guy, all of a sudden, people were saying that he was primed to start for England. I mean, probably some overreaction, primed to start for England at the Euros. And yeah, and him not starting against a team like Liverpool when you need some creativity, I think that's an interesting decision for sure. And like you said, Spurs weren't able to really create a whole lot besides those 2 goals that they did score in the second half. So, yeah, I would say they probably fine for the fifth spot, like you mentioned. I would just say that as a Spurs, or if I was a Spurs fan, you'd like to see them, I think, compete maybe a little more here at the end of the year, just to leave the fans with a good taste in their mouth. But overall, I think You said it. I mean, I think you would call this a success with a new manager. You don't know what exactly you're going to get, especially losing Kane. Like, I mean, going to the year, I thought Spurs were going to be. I thought they would take a big step back, and they really haven't. So credit to them.
Yeah, and just a couple other things. Salah goal and assists. He scores the opening goal. Cody Gakpo looked absolutely fantastic with another goal and assist there. What's up?
Horrible defending by Emerson Royale.
I mean, he's a garbage defender in the first place. I mean, as soon as I saw that matchup, I texted you and I texted another group chat. This is when Salah, a lot of shit's been talked about him as of late. He's going to shut up all the haters today and bring his best. And boy, did he do that. Harvey Elliott, looked like the best midfielder probably on the entire pitch with a goal and assist. An absolute banger of a goal. Banger. I'd love to see that more from him because he has the ability to score more. And he's been unlucky at times, but if he can just work on that in the offseason and kind of up those goal contributions a little bit. He has 3 goals and 4 assists in the Prem this year, but he's only 21 years of age. So he is quite a player that we have here. And then obviously you got McAllister Robertson getting another goal here. Nice tap in for him. So very happy with how the game went other than the last probably 20 minutes, but it was a fun watch for the neutral with 6 goals and classic Premier League game there. Now we'll get to your team here. Chelsea just absolutely destroy West Ham. West Ham did not want to be there. They want to be on a sunny beach somewhere in Ibiza. Moyes knows that he's going to be gone at the end of the season, and some of the defending there. I mean, if you put me and you back there, I feel like we could have had some of a better shot than, just letting Noni Madueke just prance right through the middle of the pitch for, I don't even know what goal that was. I think he sweated it to Jackson, but I think the commentator said schoolboy defending, and yeah, that I'd have to agree.
Yeah, it was pretty. Watching that game from start to finish, it was pretty dreadful from West Ham. They just, like you mentioned, they looked like they didn't want to be there. I mean, the goal that you mentioned that Nicholas Jackson ended up scoring when it was already 3-0, started the second half, and Trevor Chalobah plays just kind of a simple through ball that, I mean, it was from almost from the Chelsea side of the circle into the West Ham box, and then just a touch over to Jackson. It was as easy as you like. Yeah, I don't know. It was questionable from West Ham. They really, the only person that I saw was positive the whole game was Kudus, and I feel like he's positive every game. He's so dynamic, but
so good. And Bowen.
Yeah.
I thought Bowen looked good as well.
Bowen hit the crossbar 3 times. Like that was
I saw the header. The header. I didn't see he hit the crossbar 3 times. That's absurd. Tough day for him.
Yeah, I mean, and funny enough, like that was really the only chances they had the entire game. And it was Jared Bowen hitting the crossbar 3 times. From the Chelsea side, again, another really solid performance. And it's something we've been waiting on, and maybe it's coming a little bit too late. But also at the same time, like I said on the betting show, we were talking about maybe us wanting the season to end just for our teams, but all of a sudden these guys are sucking me right back into hoping that we can somehow get into the Europa League qualification spot, and it's not far fetched at all. Not far behind Newcastle now. And with the way they're playing, it almost like, they're making me believe again, which is a nightmare with this team a little bit. But also, I would say just more positive things. Nicholas Jackson scoring 2 goals. That's now 3 in the last 2.
13 goals for the season. Not bad for your first season in the Prem.
No. And frankly, I mean, I texted my friend this, like, that's a solid goal number for your first year. I think the only thing that really they're disappointed about is that it could be like 30. Like the amount of chances he's had is unbelievable.
He's kind of like a Darwin Nunez in that respect, where he doesn't have that clinical side to him. He's not a killer, and you'd probably like to see him kind of brush up on that. But sorry to interrupt.
No, that's the main part that he needs to continue to work on is his finishing, but also he's still super young, but he has a lot of promise, I think. And he's good in a lot of other areas. His hold up play is excellent. He can take players on. His runs down the field just drags guys with him. It's kind of crazy how he runs with the ball. Also a point that something that I saw that they've implemented the last few games is they've made Cucurella an inverted midfielder. It's almost like what Pep used to do with João Cancelo, just throw him in the middle, and all of a sudden you have another guy there.
The
Cucurella is now
overload.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're overloading, and Mark Cucurella all of a sudden looks like I don't know. He's making me feel things. But but it's a move that all of a sudden Chelsea has more support in the midfield, and it's made them much more confident, I think, in possession. Um, and I don't know, since they've done that, they've played much better. So I don't know if that's just like the tweak that Pochettino decided to do in the last few games, but it's something that's worked and something that they found and something that Ben Chilwell, when you have him
Cannot
out there,
do.
it doesn't work at
Yeah.
all. So
Couple things on that real quick. First, Mark Cucurella, La Masia Academy, Barcelona. That's like their bread and butter. You're able to pass the
mhm.
ball. You can play almost every position on the pitch. So that fit for him makes a lot of sense. Also, Enzo's out for the season. He's kind of the conductor, if you will, in the middle of the park. And without him, you have Casado and Gallagher, and those two are more on the defensive side than the attacking side. Now Gallagher has upped his goal contributions as of late, but I think Cucurella gives that midfield a little bit stability in possession there with that inverted midfielder role. And I think that was a really smart tweak that he did as Enzo is out for the season. Go ahead and tweak it, overload the midfield, and give Casiedo and Gallagher some help there. Uh, Going back to Jackson, I think that this guy's a project player. He's shown flashes of absolute brilliance at times. He's looked absolutely dreadful at times. So he's going to be an interesting player next year to see if he takes that next step, especially when he's going to have probably more help with Nkunku, hopefully being healthy. Still, I think Madueke has also stepped up in a big way the last month or so. Still want to see more from Mudryk, and we'll see if he can end up, living up to that number 10 jersey on his back. But a lot of positivity there. 2 points from Newcastle level. And, we'll see how Manchester United, they're level on points with Manchester United. They play tomorrow, Crystal Palace, but they have 0 senior defenders. So, Palace can get a result there. You're sitting pretty here, and it's up to you and Newcastle to kind of catch up and see who can get that 6th spot. And at this point, I'd probably back you guys to do that over Newcastle. I think Newcastle are playing good ball right now, but you guys are incredible at home at the Bridge, and I'm going to look at the games that you have next. But you have Forest, Brighton, and Bournemouth to end the season. None of those teams have anything to play for really, other than Forest maybe. So it's looking good compared with Newcastle, who are they have, let's see here, they have Brighton, United, and Brentford. So a couple tougher games for them. So, I think the schedule plays into your hands. So it's really up to what United does tomorrow, as well as, the form going into the end of the season. Now we touched on Forest. They get a big win against Sheffield to kind of put themselves, between them and the relegation zone. I think this is a just thing. There's 3 points between them and Luton, which is a pretty large hill to climb. So I just don't see it happening. But I think Forest are also a much better team than all 3 of those relegation favorites. So, if you don't even include the point deductions, they're well away from them. So I think that's probably the right thing here with the points deduction. It did make it interesting for a while, but they should have beaten Sheffield, and they did beat Sheffield.
Yeah, I mean, when you play Sheffield, you got to take advantage, right?
Absolutely.
And
It's a gimme.
like the only team that didn't was Chelsea. So here we are. But yeah, really impressive from Forest, a win they had to have, and they got it. Shout out to Chelsea legend Callum Hudson-Odoi, 2 goals, making his mark on the left wing over there. Yeah, I just think the Luton aren't going to be able to climb out of this one. As much as I would love to see it, um, they play West Ham next week, and even though West Ham just got drubbed, you expect some kind of bounce back performance next week for them, especially with it being their last home game. You want to send the fans off right. I think it's just going to be too much for Luton, unfortunately. And Forest, they have good players. They have some good players, and I think that this is a team that should be staying up with the kind of talent that they have, and it looks like they're going to be able to do that.
And they should be able to build off this. I mean, you mentioned Callan Hudson-Odoi, $3.5 million. That's all it costs to get him over into that red shirt. Alenga on the other side, a fantastic player. Chris Woods looked really good. Morgan Gibbs-White, another good player. I love Dinio in the middle of the pitch. I think he's an absolute bruiser, and he does a lot of things well. So I don't think they should have been this bad in the first place. And it's going to be up to, deciding to stick with Nuno next year or going and finding a better coach and fixing up the finances on the front office side to make sure there's no more point deductions there. But let's go ahead and get to the Bundesliga. Bayer Leverkusen just absolutely kill Frankfurt. This game could have been, an overlook for the Europa League coming on Thursday, but no, they just absolutely drubbed them with the B lineup. And they keep their perfect season afloat. And so, Matt asked this question, they actually do stay unbeaten. Do you think they could be regarded as the best team of all time? Because they'd win the treble as well. Argument to be made.
Like, you're saying best team just ever?
Of all time. And I mean, no team has gone undefeated in all competitions before.
I feel like them winning, they would have to win the Champions League.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But still, I mean, I would say top three.
It would be unbelievable. It would be absolutely unbelievable. Especially because they had like no prior track history. Like nobody saw this coming at all. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. That's a hard argument. I don't think I would necessarily agree with that, but at the same time, like I agree with you. I thought they would take a step back today, and they just came out and absolutely blitzed Frankfurt with a team that
on the road
is nowhere near their top. Yeah, nowhere near their top strength. But a lot of the key guys got in on the action. Xhaka scores, Patrick Schick, Palacios, Frimpong, Boniface. Like the top guys still got it done, even if they came off the bench. So I don't know. Xabi Alonso's got something special going on there. It would be a shame if he does leave because it would be kind of unfortunate, I think, honestly. Just because I would like to see him see if he could replicate it or at least do something similar. But anywho, Leverkusen just a freight train that keeps on rolling.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how they manage the Europa League second leg as they are up 2-0. But probably the biggest result in the Bundesliga this weekend was Stuttgart beating Bayern late. And, I mean, on the betting show, you bet Stuttgart money line, so you were very confident in them. I was thinking they'd probably get a result here, just considering that, Bayern does have a big game on Tuesday or Wednesday against Madrid at the Bernabeu. But they still started, a lot of their guys, and it was close for a little bit. They opened the scoring, and then Kane with a penalty equalized, but then they, 83rd minute goal, and then an extra time late garbage goal as well to go 3-1. So Stuttgart keep rolling here. They're now only 2 points. Yeah, I read that right. 2 points from Bayern here. And, depending on what Bayern do in the Champions League, they do have a good shot at actually grabbing that second place. They're definitely solidified for third, though, for sure.
Yeah, it's been just an impressive season from Stuttgart. Something I didn't see coming. And
I don't think
also
anyone
we didn't
saw
see
coming.
Bayern. I mean, but also we didn't see Bayern falling off like this. I mean, it all kind of goes back to Leverkusen just being the dominant team and everybody kind of falling in behind them. But at the same time, like you see the production, Undop and Grassi don't get on the score sheet, and they still get it done. Granted, they did both have an assist, but it's just been really impressive for them. And I thought that, like I mentioned on the betting show, like they had all the motivation in this game. I mean, I don't think Bayern's necessarily they don't have their eyes on any real Bundesliga game to go for the rest of the season. It's all about Madrid's second leg. So, and the fact that Stuttgart have the opportunity to potentially pass them, I think is just it's a big milestone in my mind with Bayern being the top dog for so long, having the opportunity to get on top of them and get second is a big deal. So yeah, they've been unbelievable this year. full credit to them for the way they played this weekend, even with a strong Bayern lineup. So I don't know. I enjoy watching Stuttgart play. They're pretty fun to watch.
They are a fun watch. They're easy on the eye. They play good football, and their coach, plaudits to him. I'm looking at his name right now. Sebastian Hoeneß brought them from a relegation, playoff contention all the way to third in the Bundesliga, knocking off Bayern and tying Bayer Leverkusen. So an absolute fantastic season. Speaking of Champions League, a B team, Dortmund, just go out and absolutely kill Augsburg, which was actually a huge surprise for me. I thought this was going to be a really interesting game. I thought Augsburg had a pretty good chance at this, but the Marco Reus farewell story ended really nicely. I mean, it's still going, but he got a rare start today, 1 goal and 2 assists. Malin back from injury, got a nice goal. Makoko had 2 of the easiest goals he'll ever score in his career. Bino Gens looked good. Nemecha looked good. All around, they started an academy kid, 18 years old, at center defensive mid. He even gets an assist and gets in on the action. I did not think that Dortmund were going to get a result here, and now they've made things interesting as Leipzig drew against Hoffenheim because Xavi Simons got sent off kind of late when they were up 1-0. Only 3 points from that 4th spot. So as me and Matt were kind of saying, Leipzig have probably locked this one up. It takes another twist here, and Dortmund still have stuff to play for, not only in the Bundesliga, but as well as the Champions League.
Yeah, a ton to play for. I mean, it's how it should be with Dortmund. They're a team like Bayern. They should, at the end of the year, have plenty of games to play for. And the kind of talent they have, it's pretty exciting. Mukoko, like you mentioned, is only 19 years old. The guy's been on the senior team for like 2 or 3 years already. So his development is going to continue to be fun to watch, I think. And like you mentioned, the Marco Reus story, good to see him get a goal and 2 assists after that was announced. He played a hell of a game, to be honest. And I think it's a Dortmund team that's really confident right now. You know, beating PSG 1-0 first leg, there's just so much to play for. They have an opportunity to go to a Champions League final, which is something that I don't think many of us predicted. So a ton to play for, a really impressive result, and a good storyline to go with it.
And just an interesting caveat here in terms of this 4th place race. Dortmund, after the Champions League, only have to play Darmstadt and Mainz, 2 relegation favorites here. Leipzig play Werder Bremen and Frankfurt. So Leipzig have the tougher schedule. Now they don't have Champions League ball to compete with, but there's definitely a chance that Dortmund could catch up with them, and we'll see with goal difference how that works out. I think Leipzig have a much better goal difference, so they still would have the edge potentially if they were level on points, but definitely an interesting thing to keep your eye on. Now, when it comes to La Liga, congratulations to Real Madrid. They ended up hoisting the trophy after the result with Barcelona, and another walk in the park for them. They win 3-0, and with the B team as they were resting, but I like watching the B team because you're seeing some of these young stars get some minutes, like Arda Güler, Brahim Diaz, Dani Ceballos, just to name a few. And Arda Güler hasn't gotten many chances, did not score this round, but he looked phenomenal. And I think they got an absolute player in him. Indrik's going to be in the squad next year as well. So Don Carlo Ancelotti and Florentino Perez over there are absolutely chefing right now. And, they just keep winning. Thibaut Courtois made his debut after 2 ACL injuries. And he's probably going to be – he looked good. He's going to be back probably for the – I don't know if he'll start in the Champions League. I think he will, to be honest. But that's a huge addition to get back late in the season as you're trying to not only win La Liga, but you're trying to win the Champions League for another time.
The rich just keep getting richer, man. Just crazy, man. This team is – I still don't even know what to make of Madrid. They're doing all this with no striker. Like, Joselu's in there. Like, just toss anybody who you want in there. You could throw freaking Eric Choupo-Moting in there, and this would be a Champions League winning side. It's crazy. It's crazy the stuff they're doing over there. The fact Endrick coming next year, Mbappe probably coming next year. It's just sickening stuff going on in Madrid. And they're going to win. They're going to end up winning the league by double-digit margin. Like it's crazy the shift that we're seeing, I think, right now over the last whatever it is, 5 years, 6 years, just complete dominance from Real Madrid. It's impressive to see.
It really is. And to get to the best game and why they won the trophy, Girona versus Barcelona. And Girona beat Barcelona 4-2. And, you know, we prefaced on the betting show this would be a really fun game. Me and Matt also predicted that Barcelona would probably win this, as Girona have struggled to win against the big teams. Christensen opens up the scoring his third goal in 5 games, which is absurd. But Dubovnik, my boy, ties it up literally in the next minute with a nice header. And so we're looking, pretty interesting 1-1 in the first 10 minutes. And then Lewandowski gets a penalty. They're up 2-1. Barcelona are absolutely cruising. And then around, the 60th minute, things turn. And Girona just score 3 unanswered. And I don't know if you got to see it, but that Porto volley was Robin Van Persie Netherlands-esque. I mean, that was one of Van Bommel hitting that absolute ping to Van Persie, takes first time for an absolute rocket. I think that's on par almost with that goal, because to take it across your body and to put so much swaz and bend on it to go all the way out into the back post. I mean, Ter Stegen literally just watched it bulge in the back of the net. And that probably is the goal of the year in La Liga, if not, for the year, because that, just the skill to do that is absolutely absurd. And I don't think a single person in that Girona stadium could believe that Porto netted that. And then he gets a second on top of that.
He came on in the 65th minute, scores in the 65th minute, gets an assist in the 67th minute, and then scores again in the 74th minute.
What a game.
What the hell? Just 9 minutes of glory. But yeah, Girona, impressive. Really, they've just been stunning all year. Again, another team that you just did not expect to put up this kind of fight. I think a lot of it has to do with Dubovnik, like you said, but also Savio, the way that he creates play on the wing and is so dangerous, and he's going to be a big loss for them next year. But for them to continue to go up the table, finishing second would be huge for them, get money wise, I think. But also, it's just been really impressive for them to compete with a team like Barcelona, come back in the fashion they did, and with a super sub like that. I mean, just overall, a crazy game.
Yeah, no, with that result too, they leapfrogged Barcelona. They're now 1 point ahead of them. So you mentioned the financial reasons. Barcelona need that second place money desperately. And so we'll see if, that ends up happening. We'll have to see. I think Girona play Alaves, Villarreal, and Valencia and Granada at the end of the year. Barcelona are going to be playing Real Sociedad, Almeria, and Rayo Vallecano, and then end the season with Sevilla. Pretty equal schedules, I'd say. So don't know who's going to, take that third or second spot. But Girona just keep chugging. You mentioned Savio. He had a run in that game that it was one of the most absurd, Neymar, just 3 players around him, and he gets out of it and keeps going down. He's going to be such a dangerous player for Manchester City. Another, weapon to Pep's arsenal next year, no pun intended. And I'm looking forward to see what he can kind of do with that City side. And I mean, who is Girona gonna replace with them? We'll have to see. But if they have that second or third place money, I'm sure they can go shopping here with the City group and go sign some studs. So definitely need Dubovnik and Sagankov to stay for the project, but they've definitely built a really good blueprint here. And let's see if Michel can continue to cook in Champions League ball as they clinch the Champions League spot officially for next year. Just a couple other results. Atletico Madrid lock up 4th with their win. Athletic Bilbao also won, but I just, Riquelme scored in the 5th minute, and it was just a 1-0 against Mallorca. Pretty boring here, but they're now 6 points ahead of Athletic Bilbao. and they are a good 6 points behind Barcelona. So I don't think there's room to climb there. But we expected Girona to fall. They still have stayed hot, and we were definitely wrong on that one. All three of us, including Matt.
Yep. That was a wrong thought.
Happens.
Atletico won I mean, that's just the most typical Atletico Madrid kind of win on the road. You win, you score in the 5th minute. Your expected goals finishes below 1, and just a boring game for the rest of it. Just your classic Diego Simeone masterclass.
Yep, and that definition of a nap game.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Serie A, Inter actually slip up against Sassuolo, gives them an absolute gift as Sassuolo's trying to get out of the relegation zone. They're on 29 points. Udinese is level with them on 29 points, and then right above the relegation zone, there's actually a lot of teams here, but they're all on 32 points. So a lot of hills to climb for Sassuolo, a little bit too late for them. Inter were probably hungover from partying all weekend and making fun of their rivals with the Teo Hernandez banner. I don't know if you saw Denzel Dumfries hoist that. It was like it was basically Denzel, and it had Teo Hernandez on a leash like a dog, and he was just like on the bus just hoisting it up, which was, I mean, proper shithousery. But they slipped up, and then AC Milan and had an absolute classic today against who they play. They played Genoa, and they tied 3-3. So that was a fun game to watch. And currently happening, Roma is up on Juventus, which is a big storyline as Roma is trying to keep up with Bologna and Juventus for Champions League ball. So they're up 1-0 against Juve currently. So we'll see if they can see that one out and try to catch up with either Juventus or Bologna. They're 2 points behind Bologna, 3 behind Juventus. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I just got a text from one of my boys who's at the Roma game currently. He just sent me Lukaku with about 5 U's. So, the fellas are on Roma today. Don't blame them. First time ever being in Europe, and they're gonna take the home team. I don't blame them one bit. I know they're having a hell of a time over there. But yeah, it's been I feel like Serie A is just kind of a little underwhelming this year, just because
the runaway
been
winner
decided for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to hit on a couple other storylines, PSV, which we knew they were going to win the league, but they officially did this weekend, and Lisbon in the Portuguese league are staying top here. Benfica do play in 15 minutes, so we'll have to see if there's another tail in the story there with I think Benfica now are, with a win, they'd be 5 points behind. So with the game in hand. So I don't think they're going to be able to catch Lisbon. Lisbon should be able to see this one out and win the league. And I think that Amorim will be on his way to another team here shortly. And I did want to talk. And Victor Gyökeres will be getting himself a nice contract somewhere. He scored the last goal in that Sporting Lisbon game, and he's just been the best player in Portugal by a country mile. But I actually got the chance to watch that Lisbon game, and they're definitely impressive. So I'm interested to see Amorim in a bigger league and see what he can kind of do with the side. And I'm excited to see Gyökeres kind of get a move somewhere and see if he can replicate his form this year to somewhere else.
Yeah, it's gonna be great seeing him in Chelsea blue next year.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. Now, wanna talk about the championship. Leicester obviously won the championship and they're up, but Ipswich get auto promotion here. Kieran McKenna, absolutely dragged this team from, a very lower mid-table side, back-to-back promotions, back-to-back. So we're going to have to see what they can do in the Premier League. But this is, one of the most historic teams in England, and it's fantastic to see them do it. I don't think anyone gave them credit. They have a loan army. Hutchinson, a Chelsea player, played a pretty pivotal role in their promotion, but really happy for Kieran McKenna, and Ipswich is just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it's always good to see somebody new, I think, come up in general. I mean, we're used to the typical whatever Southampton, West Brom, you get the Burnleys, those kind of teams, but Ipswich Town, welcome to the Prem. It's exciting
Welcome
stuff.
back,
I don't know.
technically, but yeah.
You're right. You're right. Welcome back. Yeah, but I mean, Leicester on Leicester's side, I think that we kind of expected Leicester to come back up. They have plenty of talent, and they obviously came down to the wire last year. But yeah, those are two teams that I'm excited to see next year. I think that the playoffs should be interesting.
Yeah, we're gonna get that too in a second. Men and Blazers tweeted Kieran McKenna's team win back-to-back promotions, beating out Leeds and Southampton despite operating on just a 15% of the budget that they were. Um, the Tractor Boys, as their name, returned to the Premier League after 22 years of hard times. So they were in League One, promoted to the Championship, immediately promoted to the Premier League. That's one of the most historic rises back to a club that I've seen in recent memory here, and we'll see what they can do. But you did mention the playoffs here. Leeds absolutely choked this to Ipswich. Let's not get it twisted. Unfortunately, we're sorry to our good friend Ewan on the pod, but they are matched up against Norwich, and Southampton and West Brom are matched up together. Pick a winner for each, and then who's going to win this promotion bid.
So remind me how the playoff goes. Is it two legs or is it just one?
It's two legs, and then the final split at Wembley.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Leeds here. I think Leeds are just more talented, and I think Leeds, even though they choke this way, they still have very solid players. In my mind, I think that Somerville is exciting on the wing. Um, he's always been a threat, even when he played in the Prem last year. And they've lost some guys for sure over the years. Obviously, when Rafinha was there that first year they came, he was outstanding and helped get him to Barcelona. But I think Leeds are just more talented than Norwich, and frankly should be coming up in my mind. Southampton and West Brom, I don't know a whole lot about who's on either of Southampton or West Brom right now. I know West Brom has a good coach. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, West Brom have a good coach. I know Southampton have a lot of the same guys that they went down with.
Okay.
So, personally, I'll probably back Southampton. Actually, no, I'm going to actually back West Brom just due to their style to get past Southampton. But then when it comes to Leeds versus Norwich, Leeds are just in such dire form, but they do have time to kind of get that back. The better side should probably win with Leeds, but I think that's almost a coin flip game. Especially played over two legs. I'm going to pick Leeds to get up, but they're probably the best chokers of anyone in England. So there's definitely a shot that they do not go up and stay in the Championship, as unfortunate as it is.
Yeah, I mean, one of my good a friend who's in Rome right now. He's a diehard Leeds guy, and he's good at texting me throughout the week his worries. So I know that he's in dire straits, as probably are a lot of Leeds fans. But I just think that they're very talented, and I think they have the makings of getting back to the Prem.
I sure hope so, and I hope you're right. But that is all our footy talk for today. Let's go ahead and get to predictions for the Champions League, Europa League, and Europa Conference League. Starting with PSG at the Parc des Princes, 1-0 down on aggregate. Matt's very confident in PSG's abilities here against Dortmund. Are you?
Oh man. 2-1 PSG, and PSG win on penalties.
I'm gonna go 2-0 PSG. Just to solve it, Mbappe will be a goal scorer in here. He's gonna come up big like he usually does in big games. Has to be. I mean, if he has a bad game, then there's no way they get through this. But I think PSG as well will especially being at home, will be able to see it through. And then with Madrid versus Bayern, level on aggregate at the Bernabeu, how do you see that game kind of going out?
Give me the Giants till they lose. Give me Madrid 2-0.
2-0. I'm going to go Madrid 2-1 here, but I think they should have well enough, especially resting their stars. I think they're going to be just fine. But maybe Tuchel has a little ace in his sleeve here that he can kind of throw out here. But Guerrero got hurt. I think someone else limped off with an injury as well. So maybe injuries are a concern for Bayern at this moment, and we'll have to see what happens on Wednesday. Now, Atalanta, Marseille, tied on aggregate, going back to Bergamo. Who do you think wins this one?
Yeah, give me Atalanta. Just think they have they have a lot of firepower up front. And Marseille after they got their new, yeah, dude, Coop miners. But give me Atalanta. I'll go 2-0 again.
I'm going to go 3-1 Atalanta as well. Hate picking the same side as you, but we have to agree we're seeing eye to eye. And then Bayer Leverkusen versus Roma. Bayer up 2-0. Is this the time where they could lose even at home?
No, it's not. That's just not going to happen. Like every time I count them out, they don't. So maybe it's the reverse this time, but let's go with. Ooh, could be kind of a tight one, I think. I think Roma's going to be pushing, but I'm going to go Leverkusen 1-0.
Leverkusen 1-0. I'm going to go Leverkusen 2-0. Same scoreline, just different avenue, I guess you could say. And then there's only one Europa Conference League game to play. Olympiacos, Aston Villa at Olympiacos. Aston Villa losing 4-2 on aggregate. Do you think they'll be able to claw back, or is it a little bit too late for Emery's men?
They're going to do their best. God, I could so see them pulling something crazy out of their hat here. Just with Ollie Watkins and everything. You know what? Give me 3-1 Aston Villa. Let's get interesting.
So and that would go to extra time.
Penalties. Okay. And then Olympiacos stuns them.
Wow. Harrison has the script, everyone. I'm gonna go 3-0 Aston Villa, and I think that's enough for them.
Sheesh. I like that.
How they've been playing, it's tough to back.
No, not great. Trust me, I had them today against Brighton. Great pick here.
Brutal. But all right, that's our predictions. Thank you so much for listening. Me and Harrison will have our betting show out tomorrow. Me and Matt will be back on the sticks on Thursday to talk about all the European action. Harrison, thank you again for coming on the show today, and hope everyone gets to enjoy the football this week.